Hey there, it's Gabrielle Nicolay from SpeechKids and Raising Orchid Kids, where we help kids learn how to talk and help parents understand their kids. And today I am delighted to be talking to a kindred spirit, Wendy Taylor from Learning Essentials. Hi, Wendy.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's going to be such a great conversation today. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And actually, before we hit record, you and I were kind of goofing out, which is why we're both like having these shit-eating grins on our faces about how we like to sing and be goofy with our kids. And so will you tell us a little bit about sort of what you do in the world and how you do it?
I will do that. So Learning Essentials provides educational therapy, academic coaching, IEP coaching, family support for students with a variety of learning needs and differences. And what we were saying before we hit record is that you and I have so much fun doing what we're doing. We want to make sure that it's individualized, it's hands-on, lots of just anything to get our kiddos engaged in a multisensory fashion so that they are learning and growing in a way that best suits their needs.
And so for some of them, that means putting on a song and dance show.
It does. It does. That's exactly right. And now thanks to the pandemic, my whole family, I have 3 boys, know some of my songs and dances that we put on. And so then they share them with their friends as well. So the love is growing.
There you go. See, and the ripples just keep going.
That's right. That's right.
And I love you have your butterfly necklace on today. So that reminds us that, you know, the flapping of the butterfly's wings has ripple effect everywhere.
The butterfly effect is working. I love it.
So, okay, let's talk about, you have a training or I don't even know what it is. It's a certificate, a training, what? I always get this wrong. Tell me.
So an educational therapist.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So an educational therapy in general is that individualized, systematic approach that works on processing attention and memory as it relates to language, literacy, and math. And right.
A lot.
It is a lot. And the clinical kind of side of it is using a diagnostic approach to treat students that are impacted by a learning need or difference through assessment, treatment, and case management. But as we just said, when it comes down to serving our kiddos, it is not clinical. It is fun. It is engaging. It is individualized. And so that educational therapy is through the Association of Educational Therapists. Fun fact, there are only 2 of us in the state of Maryland right now. What? It is really well known in California. It's slowly making its way over to the East Coast, but that's where we are right now. But it's really taking that thoughtful approach, data-driven, and ensuring that we're understanding the kiddo and supporting the kiddo the way they need in a research-backed approach.
Yeah, and this is where, like, when research can meet humanity and real life, that's the sweet spot, right? Because that's where we're leveraging what we know from not even textbooks, but like new research, right? It hasn't even made it into some textbooks. And we're able to apply it to our individual clients and then see that works. I love that.
It works. Exactly. And you know, so a lot of people ask, what's the difference between tutoring and academic coaching and educational therapy, educational consulting? It really is this marriage of all of those with a skilled practitioner. Mm-hmm. And so looking at a tutor would look at subject specific. I have a student, they are struggling in 6th grade math. I'm going to teach them skills for 6th grade math. Academic coaching is really looking at those executive function skills. I have a student that's having challenges in the area of organization, study skills, memorization, test taking, all of those fun things. I have a parent that has a student that, you know, has either been identified as having a learning need or difference, or has not, but still has a learning need or difference. And they're questioning, you know, where do I get support? How do I get support? Or you have a family where you have a kiddo that has a lot of support. They have somebody like yourself that's on their team. They have outside practitioners, maybe physical therapists as well. And then they have a case manager at school. And so an educational therapist really takes this encompassing, holistic approach and working with a family. So supporting the parents or the guardians and understanding what that IEP is, what that means, also being the quarterback, helping to communicate and collaborate all the professionals that are working with that student, in addition to providing that, again, that systematic approach for that student of looking at where are our pockets of vulnerability and how can we infuse that support, again, the research-backed support that can help grow that student.
So this is like,
those areas.
I mean, it's a lot. As you were talking, I was like, whoa, this is so much. And so for those of you watching, if you had that same feeling, go back and listen to it. You've got it on the recording. You can listen to it as many times as you want, because there's gold in there, you know? Yeah. And the thing about this work that is always, is part of why we're always learning and how we're always growing, those of us who are in the field, is because there is always something else to consider. There's always new research coming out. There's always something new that we learned about brains. There's always a new client who's presenting a little bit differently.
That's
and
right.
So part of what I love about what you're saying is, if we stay stuck in one lane, we're going to miss the forest for the trees. Right. And so I appreciate so much that holistic approach. And it's one that we absolutely take at SpeechKids and at Raising Orchid Kids, where we're very much involved in helping parents.
You guys absolutely do.
You know, like figure out, okay, what else is going on here? Do we need to get OT involved? Do we need to get some coaching involved? What is happening? There's all kinds of really new, interesting research actually about language, receptive language in particular, being mostly an executive function deficit. Or difference. So there's some interesting stuff coming out there.
That's fascinating.
I agree.
Correlation.
Like, and so stay tuned for that. But you know, again, I think that the message is here. It's complicated, and it's not too complicated to start sort of wading into the pool, taking a look around, seeing what we want to implement, seeing what else we want to implement, right? I mean, and right. Can you like illustrate for us? I love this notion of a quarterback. Like, I feel like, you know, when you get a diagnosis for your child, it should come with a quarterback.
Automatically, right? And automatically, it should, at 100%. And you know why I say that? And I'm so passionate about what we do at Learning Essentials and the guidance that we can provide, and being able to have partnerships and relationships with professionals like yourself, so that, you know, like you said, we're not the end all be all, but what we can do is help a family say, all right, here are some other professionals that can support your kiddo in this area that we can't do, but we are going to help provide you with some names and resources, kind of that case management piece, so that you can find, and with our support, help find what works best for your student and your child. And then we'll all work together. We'll communicate and collaborate. Yeah. And so a lot of this was in me, you know, kind of just as I'm going through this profession. As I mentioned, I have 3 boys. My middle son is a brain cancer survivor. And so I had to then be on the other side of that table. And it was so overwhelming for myself and my husband. And I have the background, I have the language, and I have the skills, but to be a parent in that moment and in that position to help needing to reach out and guide your kiddo, it is really challenging. And so for me, if I can provide that for families and give them that release or that relief, and help be that quarterback, as we're saying, and to help kind of coordinate this care so that they can then have a good rest and they can enjoy their time with their kid. Because at the end of the day, that's what every parent wants, right? They want to just be the parent and to be able to, you know, snuggle their babies. So to have somebody like yourself or myself that can help support them in these areas of challenges and strengths, And to help coordinate this really is a gift, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really to your point, even when you have the background, being on the parent side of that equation, and I've been there as well, it is not helpful, actually. It doesn't.
No, it's no joke.
It's like a totally different department of your brain working.
It is. And I remember sitting at, the first table with our son, and, he spent 40 days in the hospital. And before they released us, there's this big boardroom similar to that of an IEP. And I thought, I can't wear both hats. I have to be a mom, and I need to kind of get some outside help. Yeah. And so from that experience, that is what we like to infuse in what we do through Learning Essentials.
Can you give us like an example of a case study, obviously without names, but like somebody who came to you where you were like, okay, we need to either bring in a team or work with the existing team? Can you think of somebody like that?
All the time.
Oh, cool. Share.
All the time. So we start with an intake, right? So we start with an educational profile, review other testing, and complete an educational plan for that child. And that often involves other people on their team. And having the parents be able for us to communicate and collaborate with those folks. There have been times where, we're kind of getting under the hood of learning. And I think, this seems more like a speech language issue or concern. They're going to need additional support, and having that conversation with the parents to say, this is what we're doing from an educational standpoint. This is what we're seeing, the impact. And we feel that, it would benefit the kiddo just to have a conversation with somebody that's in speech language, and just to see, does this seem like a match? Are we picking up on the right signals that the student is giving off? And so that we can ensure that support is there. Also, I've had students where mental health issues have come to the top, and having to have those hard conversations with the parents of just saying, there's something beyond the educational realm here that's impacting us from moving forward with learning. Can we reach out to other resources in the mental health arena to ensure that we're supporting that child? Because if those needs aren't met, what we're doing educationally is not going to really sink in and be effective when there's other needs that are greater at the time, such as mental health. And especially now, just in the pandemic, coming through the pandemic and everything, we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. Interesting. How's that playing out at your place? Sort of post-pandemic fallout, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, there's families that are concerned that their child didn't meet the expectations or receive the information that they should have, because it was challenging being online for a variety of reasons, and are seeking additional support to kind of build those skills that maybe were missed last year, and just trying to figure out what can we do. And then, from the IEP standpoint, what can we put into place for some real world IEP goals that will match that student where they are, but also looking forward, right? And helping to guide our parents with writing their parent impact statement, and then applying that to what they see in the future of that student. Where do they see their child in a year? Where do they see their child in 3 years, 5 years? So that when we're thinking about that future education, employment, and independence, are we writing a document? Are we supporting that student with that in mind?
Whoa. Again, it's like
it's a lot.
It's a lot. It makes me so glad that I have a very narrow focus. Which,
I don't know where that leaves me.
It's broadening. No, you know where it leaves you? It leaves you that there are all types of people in this world, and thank God for it.
Right. That's right.
I mean,
yes.
I talk to people all the time who are like, you work with 2-year-olds? Are you crazy? They're like, oh, no. But they want to teach high school. And I'm like, are you crazy?
That's where I started. My first job was special education, emotionally disturbed, juvenile delinquents in high school. And I was fresh out of college. So there was not that much of an age difference, but I loved it. And I love, and that's what I love. Just the same thing with you. No 2 days are ever the same. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. So the interesting thing about now, I feel like, as regards sort of academic performance generally, and sort of academic performance, behavior, which of course is an indication of other
communication,
things. Communication and sort of, communication usually for help or for support or for need or whatever. Now is a really interesting time because kids are going back to school. So they've been home mostly. They did not get as, we can probably all agree, they didn't get as much material to learn.
Correct. Yeah.
They also they didn't have the mechanisms in place by and large to learn the material that they were receiving. And then there are students, the ones we work with, who are not that material is not that accessible to them via the screen, number one, or generally, right? So like they have a hard time learning, whether it's in person and doubly so when it's on the screen.
That's right.
Okay, so now we have kind of this perfect storm, right? We've got kids who have some kind of learning difference, who now also have a knowledge gap, who now also have a year of kind of, it's like not working out for a year. I don't know if other people have noticed this, but like being in the world is exhausting.
It's exhausting. Yes, it is. And that's, I don't know if you've seen the meme floating around on social media. It's not a meme, infographic about kids that, started before the pandemic, like how many grades they missed, and up to like first grade have never been in school. And so you have that whole part about, you have little ones that technically haven't been in school. And if they were going to start preschool and then they missed that because of the pandemic, and then they're supposed to start kindergarten, it's really interesting. And it's interesting, the perspective of our students and the parents and the educators, and educators are working so hard. Just the whole thing together is just, it's a lot. And people are really trying to kind of filter out what to do and where to go and how to support, and what do kids truly need, and what works best. And so it's a complicated mesh of a web.
Yeah. And I think the part I want to say, and then I want to ask you a question about it. The part I want to say is everybody is still doing the best that they can with what they have.
That's right.
We were doing that before, and we're doing that now. And some people's brains do that with more grace than others. Okay.
Correct.
That being said, we now have this cohort of kids who struggle in one way or another, either from lack of exposure or because of some neurological difference, often both now.
Right.
And that's going to sift out in different ways. And so I wonder if you can just sort of give me some thoughts about like how you want parents to be framing this or thinking about it, how you want to approach parents about this. Am I making sense in terms of a question?
I think so. I mean, I think, for parents to frame it is to really, again, almost look at that transition lens. Where do we see our kids now? Where would we like to see them? What do we think is working really well? Because some parents will say, there's something that did work well. It wasn't ideal, but something did work well. So what part of that did work well that we could continue? What didn't work well? What did we learn from it? And what's interesting is that parents, I have seen, have a greater insight to how their kid learns because they were home and they got to see it in the trenches, right? So before they went to school and they thought, something's not necessarily right. Maybe they're not reading to the level I would like them to, or their written expression is off, or the organization, just in that academic realm, or how they approach things. And now they're saying, I thought this before the pandemic, and now I really think this now because the pandemic brought this to light for different reasons, whether it's online screens or I was able to be a witness to their processing. How about you?
Well, I think you're right. But what's interesting about what you're saying is everything is in how we look at it. And that's actually what I love about what you just said, because what you're saying and the space that you and I as professionals are able to be in, which parents are often not, and we have experience with being both, right? In terms of like dealing with a child, is that state of curiosity. It's like, oh, I have information. I now have data on what didn't work for my child. This is a great thing.
It really is. It's empowering,
right,
for a parent, because now you can go into a school setting or speak to a professional, maybe not directly within the school, and just say, I thought this, now I see this, and this is what I know to be.
And so the piece that we don't have to hang on to is the like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, this shouldn't be happening. This is terrible. It really doesn't serve anybody. It just makes you yell at people. And then those people don't want to help you.
Right. So how can we work together? How can we problem solve? Right.
Yeah. And so that's, I don't know. As you were talking, I was like, oh yeah, right. It really is all about sort of how we think about the facts on the ground. Not just we lost a year of school. Well, okay. How about we gained a year of insight into our kids' function and what they need.
Love that framing. I do love that framing. And it is, it's hard. It is hard. It still is hard. We're still trying to unpack all of this and figure out what that means and what the long-term implications are for it. But to reframe it of what did we learn? What can we do better? How can we problem solve? Because in a position, you stand up or sit down, we could be miserable and be angry. Yes, we have a right for those feelings, but that's not helping our kiddos to move forward and gain the information that they need and the skills that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, as we're singing and dancing, that is the part that we want.
That's right. That's the part we want. But that's really, for parents to bring somebody in like you and I that can help be, again, that quarterback that can help with those conversations, to help frame the language, to get the support that's needed for the child. And then to be able to say, all right, it seems like, speech and language could really support your kiddo here. An educational therapist could support your kiddo here. Mental health person could support your kiddo here, to really kind of help you, as you said earlier on, see the forest through the trees.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Wendy, this was so fun. Time has flown. Thank you.
You bet. My pleasure.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
They can check us out on Instagram, Learning Essentials. You can look at our website. And also I have a podcast, IEP Essentials, that helps bring professionals together like you and I to have conversations, to provide tips for families if they need extra support. Always available and happy to chat with families.
Perfect. And the website is learningessentials.com?
learningessentialsedu.com.
Edu. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Wendy.
You bet. Take care. Thank you.